Mushoku Tensei, one of the most popular anime of 2021, came out of nowhere and took the anime world by storm. People were eager to write it off as just another isekai before it had become undeniably one of the best isekai shows to ever come out. Known for its intricately designed world, multifaceted characters, and sky-high production value, weebs just couldn't take their eyes off the show. In this video, we're going to mainly focus on Mushoku Tensei Season 1's jaw-dropping animation and visuals, and yes, I won't be making a video for Season 2. After all, they made a whole-ass studio in Studio Bind just to animate this show, so it only makes sense to pay tribute to this work of art. Before I start, I do want to mention that Mushoku Tensei has great animation throughout the entire show, even in the smallest of details. For time's sake, I won't be including every little detail, but I'll try to include as much as I can. Starting off, we have a few scenes from Episode 1 where Rudeus is learning a spell to generate water. With each drop, you can tell the animators took care to make each splash as natural as possible, and around halfway through the episode, this happens. I mean, absolutely stunning. This scene is extremely ambitious as the room rotates while keeping perfect perspective, despite the environment being completely hand-drawn. The water, Rudy's hair, and the pages of the book move in a super detailed, yet natural way. Not too long after, Roxy shoots a water ball of her own. This scene showcases that this show does not play when it comes to water. It almost looks too good because somehow they make water in anime look more fluid than water in real life. The ball of water is animated with a great amount of elasticity as it is shot out from Roxy's staff. The recoil from the spell is also depicted as Roxy's body, hair, and clothing physics react in a very natural motion. Even the healing of the tree right after is fluidly animated, as well as having an unnecessary level of detail. On to episode 2, we have Rudy replicating the final spell that Roxy teaches him. As the camera rotates at ultra high speeds, the scene seamlessly transitions to Rudy's hand motions with beautiful smear animations and intense rustling of the hair and clothes. The scene pans out with the ground and tree all being hand-drawn and no use of 3D. Mushoku Tensei rarely uses CGI, giving the show a stylistically rustic profile with its thick line work and heavy use of 2D backgrounds. On to the next scene. Ooh, that is some clean-ass water animation. For some reason, they decided to make Rudeus getting beat up a way to show off their animation prowess. Smearing of the character models makes the actions they take look so lively. Scenes like these where you think there's no reason to have good animation are ones that Studio Bind will do the opposite and show you that they really care about the show they're making. Speaking of smears, this scene later in the episode starts off with a beautiful hand smear, followed by a rotation and dynamic camera shot. The scene follows an impressively animated trail of rocks that the camera zooms past. A few seconds later, oh my god, we gotta replay that. I haven't seen fire animation this smooth and detailed in a damn long time. The drawing of the fireball itself is gorgeous, with its faint orange and bright yellow color palette, and an almost translucent texture is used on the fire. Then starts the fight scene, which is an absolute gold mine of Sakuga. It starts off with Rudeus sprinting past the camera and displaying some beautiful body smearing. Then this absolutely vile nut bust is animated with so much visceral intensity, my balls started to ache too. Following this, another set of energetic action sequences happens before this. Man, I still get chills after watching that. Being one of my favorite Mushoku Tensei scenes, I gotta do it justice. First, we start off with Ghislaine darting across the rooftops. Her character model is blurred and her run cycle is animated at a high frame rate, giving a sense of speed that I have rarely ever witnessed in anime. In this shot, Ghislaine's hands smear in and out of the camera before she races past it as she jumps from rooftop to rooftop, which are all hand animated by the way. The smearing of her character model contribute an even greater sense of speed and intensity before the camera pans over the roof and into the alleyway where Rudeus is. Here the buildings are all hand-drawn and showcase stunning 2D background animation. You can see as the building contorts to represent the camera slowing down from high speeds and emphasizing the setting in which Ghislaine will save Rudeus. And in one of the most unique visuals I've ever witnessed, rainbow-esque rings collapse towards Ghislaine's targets to once again showcase speed. She flashes past them in a scene with a monochromatic background that gives a sense of despair for her victims, as if there was nothing they could do against her monstrous power. The background smoothly transitions to normal as everything in her wake is torn to shreds. I mean, it's perfection. After that, the Mad Lads at Bind decide to force feed their viewers with even more Sakuga, an absolutely stunningly choreographed fight with just the most dynamic smearing and action lines that once again convey speed. Any scene with Ghislaine is just a treat to watch, and Studio Bind never forgets to not only make the fighting itself impressive, but also the movement of the hair and clothes as well. Since we're on the subject of hair and clothing animation, we find ourselves on the other side of the spectrum. This stance that Rudeus and Eris are having is unexpectedly impressive. Eris's hair flips naturally as she twirls in an extremely smooth motion. What makes it even more impressive is us as the viewers able to keep the right perspective as the camera rotates around the two hand-drawn and moving character models. And we're right back to gorgeous action animation, except this time there's a little more emphasis on the power of the swing rather than the speed. Later, we have Orsted's introduction, emanating Giga Chad energy like no other character. And what? A completely 2D animated dragon that looks utterly marvelous. And look at the detail in this man's face, clothing, and hair. Shadows are drawn perfectly here, adding another layer of detail that we the viewer just can't get enough of. Just before I thought the episode didn't have more, we reached the show's turning point. Like I said, Ghislaine just can't have a bad fucking scene. She flashes out of sight with only action lines in her wake. Somehow the animators decide to not only animate their background in 2D, but also add a crazy amount of grass detail on the moving ground as well. Do you know how hard it is to animate 2D backgrounds, let alone ones that have an immense level of detail? Animators have to draw every single frame that you see, meaning any level of detail they add has to be replicated in every next drawing that they make. This takes an incredible amount of time and effort, which is why usually animators will add less detail or just completely use CGI in their backgrounds, for example, like Ufotable. I'm obviously not saying what Ufotable does isn't impressive, I'm just saying it's way more feasible to use 3D backgrounds for long periods of time, since there isn't a need to draw every frame of every background like you would need to do in 2D background animation. However, that makes Mushoku Tensei all the more magnificent, since that is exactly the extra length that the show will take to look good. After Rudeus and Eris meet Rijerd, Rudeus accidentally says something a little insensitive, leading to this unique shot of Rijerd's face. The shading is rough and multi-layered, as well as having every detail in Rijerd's face being emphasized. Yeah, I'd be shitting my pants too, Rudeus. Immediately starting off episode 10 is this aggressively animated scene. Once again, the extremely hard task of animating dynamic 2D actions with respect to a moving camera is done perfectly. And here's a neat rotating shot of the crew in completely 2D. And on to the final episode of the season, with some of the best fight scenes in the season. The crew finds themselves in the woods filled with terrifying monsters. I mean, these things are huge, with tons of detail and shading to include. Yet the animators still decide to animate every single creature by hand. Not only that, they're somehow more fluidly animated than any other show could animate normal character models. And look at this beautiful dynamic camera shot with gorgeous background animation. Man, Rijerd really just took Ghislaine's spot for nut-busting animation after she disappeared. And Eris too, getting no less of the treatment than either, with some nice impact frames and intensely animated blood splatter. I mean, this episode is another goldmine of Sakuga. There are too many accounts of masterful background animation, vigorous smear animation, and gorgeous impact frames, which can all be seen in this one scene. With the anime industry having an ever so growing demand for shows, it's really rare when we see a show that isn't half-assed garbage filling the seasonal anime chart. As a viewer, I feel like I would be doing a disservice if I didn't make this video. The passion, hard work, and intent to make the show the best that it could possibly be is something that no viewer should disregard, as it is evident in every aspect of the show, not just the visuals. I think it's safe to proclaim Mushoku Tensei as a goddamn work of art.
Jump.